Welcome to another episode of Purpose Today. I'm your host, Dr. April Dobson, and I'm very excited to have a very special guest on the show with us today, Dr. Neal Hambright. Very excited. Dr. Neal Hambright is the author of the two-way interview. He's also authored other books, which we'll talk about later in the show today. He is also the founder of Hambright Publishing, LLC. And Dr. Neal Hambright is also a senior HR professional in the federal government and an adjunct professor. So I'm very excited to introduce our special guest, Dr. Neal Hambright. And on today's show, we're going to talk about something that candidates are normally making mistakes on during their interview. And today we are in our series, Purpose for Success, talking about interview tips. And our theme today is the two-way interview. So during today's episode, Dr. Neal is going to share a common mistake that candidates are making with interviews.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Dobson. And one of the common mistakes that individuals make during the interview is that a lot of times the interviewee, which is usually the person that's being interviewed, oftentimes try to impress the interviewer just so that way they can get the job there, because the job is the goal there. Everyone wants to, interview with the purpose of being hired by the interviewer. But one of the common mistakes that the interviewee makes is that they try so much to impress the interviewer that they fail to take the opportunity to interview the interviewer just as much as the interviewer is interviewing them, which is the interviewee. So that's one of the common mistakes. And in the two-way interview, I had laid out a format and a methodology that will help both the interviewer and the interviewee to interview each other to make sure that they're asking the right probing questions, which ultimately to make sure that both of them are a good fit for each other.
Absolutely. So you don't want to miss this power-packed episode of Purpose Today with our special guest, Dr. Neal Hambright. Don't go anywhere after these special sponsor messages. We'll be right back. Today's episode of Purpose Today is brought to you by Purpose Today Global in partnership with the Purpose Professionals community. For more information on the Purpose Professionals community, scan the QR code or visit the school community and search for Purpose Professionals. If you're a professional who has a desire to ensure that you are intentional and purposeful about your career, you'll want to join the Purpose Professionals community. This community helps you to be able to pivot to pursue your purpose. If you're also a professional who wants to grow your career, you want to develop, or you're an entrepreneur who wants to purposefully align your business, or you're a professional who wants to network with like-minded professionals, then join the Purpose Professionals community on school. The community offers a variety of courses like mindset, leadership, courses on developing or revising your resume, and so much more. The community also offers live virtual sessions on various topics. And we have our Purpose for Success series. So scan the QR code for more information on the Purpose Professional community. Welcome back to Purpose Today Global. So again, it's such a joy to have our special guest, Dr. Neal Hambright, a professional, the CEO and founder of Hambright Publishing, LLC, and a dear friend of mine. So Dr. Neal, I know that many people know you, but we may have some viewers who don't know you. And I know I shared a little bit of insight about you earlier. But what else would you like to share with our viewers about yourself?
Yes, good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Neal Hambright. I'm a native of Detroit, Michigan, born and raised here. And for all of our Detroiters out there, one of the ways we greet each other is by saying, "What up, though?" That's our glorious salutation, if you will, there. I currently live in the Washington, D.C. area. I'm one of the senior human resource specialists for the United States federal government, and have a plethora of just experience and background. I am very academically trained in many aspects in regard there too. But that's a little bit about who I am and kind of what I do. And for the last, several years or so, there's a lot to me in totality. But for the sake of time, there, those are just a brief, succinct blurb of like who I am and what I do there.
So, I want the viewers to know, how you ended up starting a career in HR. And because I know that we have a lot of people who have watched some prior shows that we've had a few people who've talked about, the HR profession. And I know you're in the public sector. So how did you get started in an HR career? I know you're a senior professional at this time, but how did you get started with your HR career?
Yes. Well, it happened back when I was working at the Department of Veteran Affairs. I was in, I thought I wanted to work in the field of contract specialists in the United States government. But the person that was actual contract specialist, they was going to give me an opportunity to do that there. But they had me doing like HR kind of work off to the side. And I found myself liking that a lot better there. I consider myself a people person at times there, and I love I call it the evangelistical approach to HR, just the onboarding and getting people excited about their new careers. That's sort of something that just innately flows for me. But that's where it started from there. And just shortly after that, I left there and I went to Denver, Colorado for 6 months there. And I'll never forget in 2015, that's when I had the opportunity to come to Washington, D.C., and I started as a human resource assistant with the government printing office here in Washington, D.C. So that's how I started in the field of HR. So I started as an assistant and moved up from there from a couple of various agencies up as the senior HR official.
That's great. You said something when you were talking about your journey into the HR career, and I want us to unpack that a little bit because I think some people could be watching the show today who say, I have a desire to do something different than what I'm doing. I've never done it before. It's different than what I'm doing, but I've been in my career for this much time and I don't know how I can do it. But you said something. You said you were in a contracting role and you had some exposure. You had an opportunity to do some work, some tasks that were related to HR. Now, how did that opportunity come to you? Was that something you volunteered to do? Were you asked, about the opportunity? How did that transpire? And how much did you have to be intentional about keeping other HR opportunities available to you? Did you seek them out? So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely, Dr. Dobson. But yeah, that one opportunity, the servicing person that was the contractor, they kind of had their own office down in the Jefferson Barracks area at the Department of Veteran Affairs. So in them having their own office, their primary work was doing contract specialist work in the federal government. We put jobs in certain series, so that's 1102 series there. But because she had to do some hiring, and that sort of thing like that, that's how I ended up kind of doing that type of work. And out of that, I found myself liking that a lot better because their main intentions, they wanted me to go into the 1102, which is the contract specialist route there. And after having some exposure and to see what it was, and there's some technicalities and stuff to being a contract specialist. You have to have like you have to take these you have to have certain levels And the levels, it's the 3 levels, a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3. A level 3, and you have to take a test and something. They would train you to get up to a level 3, but once you get up a level 3, you are in a position where you're able to write contracts up to millions and millions of dollars. So you're holding the federal government up to that particular dollar amount. You're able to sign off and to really do some amazing things when it comes to purchasing items and things for the United States federal government or so too. So not that I didn't want to go in it because of that there. I just found like my niche in HR. I love going this part there. I'm like, I like this than that. So, and one thing about it, my leader, she respected that too. She was like, oh, okay. I had my own office and I was doing that for that whole area there and loved it and loved that person too. They're still out there and around. So I hope they get an opportunity to see this.
That's good. Now, you said that later you ended up going to work for the government printing office, specifically in an HR role. Now, was that a role that you applied to get to the government printing office?
Yes, I did there. I applied to that back in 2015 because I'll never forget. It was March of 2015 because I had moved to Denver, Colorado, and I thought I was going to stay in Denver. I connected with some wonderful people there during that time. They're a great church family. A lot of them, they've kind of moved on and stuff there too. But that opportunity became available and I took advantage of it during that time frame.
Yeah, so I love that, Dr. Neal, because you were able to discover something that you were passionate about, something that you loved, and you found your area. So instead of staying in contracting, you made the decision to fully pivot into HR. And, you know, I have to ask this question because I truly believe when a person aligns with their purpose, that's when their career takes off. And for people who may not be familiar with the federal government, a human resources assistant and a senior HR specialist, there's a big gap between the roles. It's a major progression. So can you tell us the speed at which your career took off once you transitioned from contracting into HR?
Wow.
You made the pivot.
It took off like exponentially because, you know, how the government is set up from time to time. There is that pretty much promotions and things there. They could be in a year span. So once you got into an HR role, you know, for the first year or so, you usually get like step increases, or if you're step 1, step 2, step 3, you get an increase, you know, automatically. That's kind of like how it worked there. But however, if you stay in that position for 1 year and you're good at it, you can apply to the next grade level, which is considered a promotion as well. So if it's opportunity in there for the next grade level and you've got your, we call that time and grade, which is just 1 year in that particular position, you can apply or compete for the next position there. And that's how you get a promotion. So for me, those progressions over the years happen, you know, within the span of 1 year in many cases.
Good. That's good. That's good.
Progressive and somewhat accelerated compared to the private sector.
That's great. Thank you so much, Dr. Neal, for sharing that. Now, I know that in your case, when you talk about going from the contracting role to the human resources assistant role, and then for the promotions, you talked about applying, you know, for these opportunities that really made way for you to be able to go into, if you will, another grade, right? And so as you were applying for these positions, I imagine you had to interview, right? So you had a lot of opportunities to interview. And then as you became more senior in your role, you had an opportunity to be involved on the staffing and recruitment and onboarding side of recruitment for a lot of opportunities within the federal government. So what are some interview tips, and we're going to get into your book a little bit here later, but let's focus on some interview tips, because today's episode that we're focusing on today is part of our Purpose for Success series, and we're talking about interview tips. So what are some interview tips or some common interview questions? Let's start there. What are some common interview questions that candidates should be prepared to answer? Maybe 2 or 3.
Oh yeah, one of the main one is usually, tell me about yourself too. And I'm going to be honest, Dr. April asked me that question on this podcast too. And the goal for that particular question is not to go off and to just give anything personal about yourself, but just give a brief generalization of like who you are, what you've done like professionally, like a summary of like some professional highlights, and that the reason why you're looking to pursue other opportunities, maybe for growth or development or so. But just a brief summary, I would say probably keep it less than 2 minutes or so. Just a very succinct overview of who you are, maybe some of what you're currently doing, and highlight some of a few things of accomplishments that you've done that you would look further in talking to as you progress in the interview. And that's pretty much it there.
And you know what? I really appreciate you sharing the tell me about yourself question and how to answer it, just the framework for answering it. And I think it is important for them to make sure that they only talk about, professional information, that they avoid anything personal, that they give an overview about themselves. And I think it's great for them to mention accomplishments too. That's an important question to be prepared to answer. The tell me about yourself question. What's another question that candidates should be prepared to answer when they're interviewing?
Oh, yes. One of the questions too that I talk about in the book there, and also inside of the book there, that's in the chapter that's dealing with the various types of interviews too, because there's multiple types of interviews. The most common interviews that they utilize in the federal government are called behavioral-based interviews. Those typical interview questions usually start off like with, tell me about a time where you had to deal with a difficult customer. You're going to tell them about the situation, just briefly. Then you're going to tell them about the, a brief scenario about the problem that had occurred. Tell them about your what you did to correct the problem. And then lastly, you're going to tell them what was the result and the outcome as well. And we actually call that the 𝐒𝐔𝐁 method, or so that you would actually learn inside the book as well too. So those are some techniques that you would actually be able to learn and to apply. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Dr. Neal. So those behavioral-based questions are so important, because really they're trying to get insight on how you would respond in certain situations. And I really like the fact that you talked about really describing what happened, the time, describing the outcome. And so for many of you the STAR method, what was the situation? What was the task at hand? What actions did you take? What was the result? You also have the SOAR method. What was the situation? What obstacles did you face? What were the actions that you took, and what was the result, right? And you want to be able to answer those questions within a couple of minutes, and make sure you bring it back full circle so that they know that you're answering the questions. And whenever you can talk about anything from a qualitative or quantitative approach of the impact that you made with your actions, that is important. So how did what you do help to save the organization time? How did it help to create efficiencies? How did it help to save the organization money? How did it help to be able to gain clients or retain clients? How did it help to introduce an innovation or efficiency within the organization? These are all things that you want to be able to tie in, because you basically want to show in your answers how you were able to bring solutions to an organization. Now, I want to get into this last question, and then we'll get to talking about your book. I want to get into common mistakes that you see that candidates make. What's the biggest mistake that you see that a candidate makes when they are interviewing? What is the biggest mistake?
One of the biggest mistakes, Dr. Dobson, is a lot of times some candidates have a tendency to overshare. They tend to give more information than what was actually asked of them too. And that's not necessarily like a major red flag, but you also want to make sure that, and that was one of the things when you so eloquently spelled out the STAR method and everything. Once you answer those questions, meet all of those different methods in the STAR method. Once you answer those questions, you pretty much answered the questions there. So you don't have to add anything in additional to that there. But oversharing seems to be one of the biggest points where people tend to go off and just kind of, give more than what's asked of them. But I have tools inside the book there that will definitely help you to just to answer the questions that you're asked. And once you answer them, you've answered the question.
Yes, and you want to make sure that you don't overshare. That is important. Some information that shared is not necessary to share. So you want to avoid talking about anything personal in the interview. You want to ensure that you're not talking about your political affiliation. You're not talking about, your health information. You're not talking about, your family. There's just certain things that you're not supposed to talk about. You're not supposed to talk about your age, keep it professional, keep it professional. So now as we get into the two-way interview, there's something that most candidates don't understand when it comes to interviewing. And what is that, Dr. Neal?
One of the questions that sometimes I notice that when we're interviewing clients here, it's important to make sure that you take some notes as well too while you're interviewing, because a lot of times the interviewer can ask multiple questions sometimes too. And if you're not taking notes or writing it down, or even just ask, it's okay to ask them to reiterate or re-ask the question again there, because a lot of times those situational interview questions, they can be 3 or 4 questions and 1 question as well. So you want to make sure that you write every question down, make sure that you understand what you wrote down. And once you do it, then you start answering them in the order in which you receive. Because like I mentioned before, as long as you are giving the answer to the question, then you pretty much fulfilled your purpose in the interview process there.
Absolutely. Now we have to go back to this thing that candidates are missing. The thing that candidates are missing. And I know you talk about it in your book, right? So when they're interviewing, this is something that they miss and that they don't think about. So what is it that, candidates don't think about when they're interviewing? People try to impress the interviewer, but what is it that candidates need to know when they're interviewing?
One of the main things that the candidates need to know while they interviewing, or if they in the role as the interviewee, is they want to make sure that they asking the interviewer, questions, about them, particularly their leadership style, what's their mode of communication or so too. I also wanted to share, in addition to the two-way interview, is not just the application of the two-way interview can be applied not just in interviews for getting a position, but in life in general as well too. Let's say if you are, you're dating or you're courting someone, you want to be able to ask, your potential, significant other or in that relationship, 2 certain questions about them to get to know. The same concept applied, as you're looking for a job. You want to ask them probing questions like what their leadership style. From a relationship standpoint, it's almost asking like, what's your love language? Do you like this, or do you like acts of service? In the professional sense, you want to ask the interviewer somewhat same a question. What's their professional language? How about that?
Yeah.
That's a good way of the interviewee interviewing the interviewer, because as I mentioned, a lot of times these individuals are your direct reports and context, and you want to make sure that their values and goals are in alignment, not just with the organization. Because many times, if you're at an interview, the job in most cases is not the question. You usually don't get to an interview if you're not, you don't have no qualifications of any sort. As well, the fact that you made it to the interview, it's just a matter of them, selecting you, or they're impressed by, your resume or candidate, or just you in general as well too. But yeah, you definitely want to make sure that you're asking them those questions as well. And once you get those questions and they both are in alignment and both of you are in alignment, it's a win-win relationship, and you're going to have a great relationship, working for that company or that individual or that organization as well too.
Yes.
The relationship standpoint, you have great relationships when you all understand love languages and those sort of things like that too, because of communication is a major part of relationship.
Absolutely.
Purpose.
Dr. Neal, I'm so glad that you shared, because a lot of people are missing the fact that it's a two-way interview. You said it, it's not just one way, it's two-way. While the interviewer is interviewing the interviewee, the interview is also interviewing the interviewer or interviewers, because sometimes there's a panel. And, you said something, asking the right questions, asking about the leadership style. And, I have to ask you this question so that candidates who are preparing for interviews, because you said something, you said, if someone is being interviewed, then whoever they're being interviewed by at the company already has the confidence in them that they can do the job. It's just reinforcing what they've already demonstrated in prior interviews or in prior phone calls or in their resume, because the resume gets you the interview and the interview is what gets you the job. So ensuring that you show up confidently, right? So what can you share? Because you've already shown that the mindset of going into an interview should be that they already believe you can do the job. So what is it that a candidate can do to help to reinforce that they're the right person for the job?
I think you hit on a key word there is, your confidence as well.
Yes.
Having confidence, in yourself, and your confidence, it comes across in the way you speak, the way you talk, the way you project yourself. I also talk about a section in the chapter very briefly, how you dress. There's a saying, you dress how you want to be addressed. And, and that's a key factor in your appearance and how you look as well. A lot of people have, different views on, how you look in certain dress codes and everything, but your appearance plays a major role in terms of how your confidence or how you come across to individual. Perception is everything too in that process there too. So a lot of times people, they may not buy what you say so much, but they will buy you first. So you become the first impression and representation. So you always want to make sure that you bring that forward the best. So you may want to go out and, make some investments in, a jacket, blazer, tie. If you're a gentleman, a nice blouse or suit. I know, April, you are amazing in the fashion department there too, because you present yourself very well. Always as well too, just knowing what to wear or how you come across and presenting yourself in those settings there too. So I talk about that in the book too. Dress how you want to be addressed, and that determines how people, respect you as well.
That's good. Now let's turn our focus on the two-way interview. Now, thank you for releasing the two-way interview. This is an excellent resource. I want you to share. I know you talked about you have elements about confidence and you have elements in the book where you talk about the types of questions, but can you just give viewers, I think they know interview? Just some of the chapter titles.
Oh, could you reiterate that, please, Dr.
Yeah, so I know that you talked a little bit about the fact that you have confidence that you address in the two-way interview. You talked about questions that you have, and you talked about the importance that interviews are two-way. But what are the chapter titles? I think people have an understanding of what the book is about, but can you just share some titles of the chapter, maybe about 4 or 5 of the chapters of the book?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. There, I would start at chapter 4 because chapter 1 and chapter 2 was just kind of an introspective kind of look there, which we kind of already covered in our discussion. But chapter 4 is getting ready for your role as the interviewee. So that's what we just kind of talked about. That's chapter 4. Chapter 5 is preparing your role as the interviewer. So it's not just about the interviewee. I have something for the interviewer as well too. Chapter 6 is building rapport and trust. That is very, very key, in that setting as well too, because you want to make sure that you feel like who you're sharing and who you're talking to, that you actually trust them. And when you build a rapport with individuals, folks feel a little bit more comfortable and relaxed and, sharing things that that's relevant, to the two-way process there too. The last, we go on to chapter 7 where it says asking the right questions. I have something there. And also in chapter 8 is reading between the line. It is not what is said, because a lot of times, it's not so much what a person can say. You also have to pay attention to the clues and know how to, what the young people say nowadays is read the room. You got to listen to what people are not saying, because when you're not saying something, you're actually saying something as well too. So paying attention to body clues and gestures as well. That's what you would learn in chapter 8. Chapter 9 is like managing difficult conversations. That's kind of important as well. And then it goes on to chapter 10, transforming the interview into a dialogue and not an interrogation. That's a really, really good chapter.
That's a good one. That's a really good one.
I'm gonna leave that one. That's gonna be like the T there. You want to make sure you stay tuned to chapter 10 there. And then lastly, chapter 11, 12, pretty much kind of summarize accessing the experiencing, mastering the two-way for life, and then the summary and conclusion. So it's a very good read, very succinct. My target audience is pretty much anyone that's in career changes or transition or just want to be better at this. It's a great tool. My target is mostly college students as well too. So I definitely want, because these are skills that's going to help them, as they're progressing in their careers and their life, and and moving out your house into the real world as well. And we want them to be well prepared for now and generations to come. So that's the two-way interview.
That's good. Now tell everyone, if you can tell the viewers, how to purchase the two-way interview if they're interested in purchasing the two-way interview.
Yes, the two-way interview is available on Amazon.com. There, it's also available for Kindle for those of you all who have the auditorial neuron skins like myself as well. I'm one of those auditorial listeners. I can listen to a book as almost if I'm listening to the radio, like in your car or driving around there too. It gives you the skills, but the hard copy is only $12 on Amazon.com. I want to make sure I make this resource affordable for anybody, free shipping and delivering if you got Prime and everything there too. So that's how you would get a copy of the book. If you like a signed copy, you can also reach out to me on LinkedIn at Dr. Neal Hambright. I will reach out to you personally and get you a signed copy. Also, I have a promotion where I was giving out a $5 $5 Starbucks gift card, just my way of saying thank each and every one of you for your support and everything there. So it would be a total of $15, and you can do Cash App, Venmo, and everything there too. And just reach out to me so that way we can connect personally there to make sure that your information and stuff is safeguarded and protected accordingly. So those are the ways to reach out and to get this resource in your hand. It will be great for you and it will benefit you from days and years to come. And I thank you in advance, for your support and your encouragement in this endeavor.
Yes, and I thank you, Dr. Neal, for taking the time to come today to talk about yourself, to talk about your newest book, The Two-Way Interview. I have your LinkedIn profile on the screen. What other way, if viewers want to get in touch with you, what's another way that they can contact you?
Oh, yeah, you can contact me through Facebook at Neal Hambright. Just inbox me and I will reach out to you personally and be happy to connect with you. LinkedIn is one of the other professional forums as well, too, where we can reach out and connect and just build and bond and create great relationships.
That's good. And so Facebook, Neal Hambright, I've got your LinkedIn profile there on the screen. My apologies for not having your Facebook profile.
Yeah, it's
For
Neal
people.
Hambright, the one and the only.
Yeah, so if you want to contact Dr. Neal on Facebook, he's the one and only Neal Hambright on Facebook. I'm going to try to drop that onto the screen as well for those of you who may want to contact Dr. Neal via Facebook. So I am going to show that. So that's Neal's Facebook profile if you want to contact him on Facebook. Now, I know we took this particular episode of Purpose Today to focus on Purpose for Success interview tips, the two-way interview. But I want to make sure that viewers are also aware of the other books that you have published in case they are not familiar. So do you want to share some insight on your other publications?
Oh, yes, so absolutely. We can never forget the debut there, The Autonomous Career, Freedom of Time and Space in Your Chosen Workplace, authored by yours truly, and also Dr. April Dobson, who's actually the live person for Purpose for Today, too. We co-authored this book together, as a team there to let people know that, and it has a lot to do where April kind of birthed his show from, finding your purpose and your passion. Because the goal is when you align those two together, that actually leads to freedom, which is another word where we get the word autonomy, which is like self-governance, where you're able to to have freedom in your work, enjoy what you do, because when you enjoy what you're doing and that purpose and passion is aligned up, it doesn't even seem like work. It seems like your sense of meaning, direction that's aimed to guide your actions, and you have a feeling of fulfillment and accomplishment and well-being. And that's what our God-given ability, that's why we exist. We're people of purpose in that regard.
Yes.
That's the autonomous career. The other book that I wrote was my travel book. Do you want to travel? I'll show you how right now. There is the anthology of all the travels that I've done. I've been privileged to travel to all 50 states in the United States, with Hawaii and Alaska being the last on the two, which is kind of ironic because both of those states got their statehood in 1959 under the Eisenhower administration there. So, and they're the most furthest states, kind of out there. Had an amazing time in both places there. Maui was so amazing there too. And I survived the road to Hana. I'll never read that again. So those of you all out there know about the road to Hana in Maui, Hawaii, I will never ever read that road again. I read a portion of it, but not when you actually get to the city of Hana and head back to the mainland. That's a never again. Just the outskirts part that's on the the island or the water or something out there. I'll do that part there because that was beautiful.
Well,
the two-way interview. This is the most latest book out there. It's not just one way, but two. While you're interviewing me, I am interviewing you.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you again, Dr. Neal. It's been such a joy to have you as a guest on Purpose Today. You've shared some wonderful, valuable nuggets. And I just want to recap on some things that you shared. Dress how you want to be addressed. Confidence is key in interviews. Be prepared to answer behavioral based questions like tell me about a time when you had to deal with a difficult customer, being sure that you're able to use the STAR method and show the result from the actions that you took. And the question that's often asked is tell me about yourself. So this has been great. You've shared so much insight, and people have to remember that the interview is two-way between the interviewer and the interviewee. And so it's not just one way, but it's two. So if you don't have the two-way interview, be sure to purchase Dr. Neal Hambright's newest book, The Two-Way Interview. And so you can get that on Amazon. That's going across the bottom of the screen. So you can purchase the two-way interview. If we didn't get to your question, to answer your question today through the course of this interview or in the chat, if we weren't able to address it, then certainly feel free to reach out to Dr. Neal on LinkedIn, reach out to him on Facebook. He would be happy to answer your questions. Dr. Neal is very approachable. So, he would love to hear your questions, to answer your questions. And then the Facebook profile, I have it there. So thank you again, Dr. Neal, for being our guest on Purpose Today. This has been such a joy. Thank you so much. I know you're going to go backstage. You and I are going to chat again. You're going to be backstage for just a little bit, but I want to thank all of our viewers. So Dr. Neal, I'll talk to you backstage here in just a moment. And I want to thank all of our viewers for taking the time to watch this episode of Purpose Today. Dr. Neal Hambright gave some wonderful insights and interview tips for those of you who are preparing for interviews. Remember, if you're invited for an interview, it is because the individuals who are on the panel have confidence that you have what it takes to fill the role. So it's important for you to go in confidently, as Dr. Neal talked about. Confidence is key. And so this episode, again, was brought to you by Purpose Today Global in partnership with the Purpose Professionals community. You can scan the QR code to view information on the Purpose Professionals community. If you're someone who wants to ensure that you're aligning your profession with your purpose, if you want to pivot to pursue purpose, grow your career, continue to develop, if you want to purposefully align your business with your purpose, if you want to network with like-minded, purposeful professionals, join the Purpose Professionals community on School. So thank you very much for tuning in to this episode of Purpose Today. I'm your host, Dr. April Dobson, and it's been such a joy to have you viewing our episode today, Purpose for Success, the two-way interview, talking about interview tips with the author of The Two-Way Interview, Dr. Neal Hambright. So thank you again for tuning in. Be purposed today and every day, and we'll see you on another episode of Purpose Today. If you're like Dr. Neal and you believe that you need to pivot professionally, as he did over a decade ago when he made the pivot from contracting to HR, send an email to admin@purposetoday.com. We also want to invite you to complete the Purpose to Profession Alignment Interest Form. The link is on the screen, and as a gift for completing the form, we'll send you the Purpose to Profession Alignment Matrix tool.